Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As a part of the big question that we are discussing, is Jesus God? We're going to discuss from the perspective of Jesus himself. Did Jesus claim to be God? Well, we cannot evaluate all possibilities about who Jesus was and whether or not Jesus is God without looking at the words spoken by Jesus about himself. What did he claim about himself? Then, in the light of that, we can then evaluate the opinions regarding who Jesus was from different perspectives, whether he was a God or not. And since there was no red letters or words spoken by Jesus in the Old Testament, so we cannot rely on it when we look for words Jesus has said there. The only two books that contain words spoken by Jesus himself are the New Testament and the Quran, because both contain words spoken by Jesus as direct speech. Nonetheless, if you try to find words from the mouth of Jesus that directly say that he is God, don't exhaust yourself. Bible experts can assure you that Jesus did not make such a statement. However, Jesus cried out on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Matthew 27:46. If Jesus was God, who was he speaking to? How come he bigs himself? Jesus was not known to be insane. He must have been talking to someone else, calling him my God. This proves that Jesus and God are two separate entities. In the book of John, chapter 8, verse 40, Jesus says, "But now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth, which I heard from God. This is not what Abraham did." In this verse, Jesus admits that he is a man who speaks the truth. And when a human being speaks the truth, there are those who may follow him and those who do not follow him because he's a human being who tolerates wrong or right. But if Jesus is God, why didn't he mention that he is God who speaks the truth? Perhaps if he had mentioned that, they would have listened to him and followed him, and instead of insulting him for his lineage. If Jesus was God, all he needed to do is to declare his divine nature as a God speaks the truth. But he did not say that because he never was a God. He simply said it to all of them, that he is just a man, and a man isn't equal to God. And in John 5:30, Jesus says, "I can of my own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not mine own will, but the will of the Father, which hath sent to me." And the word nothing literally means not a single thing. He cannot do anything of his own strength. I can't imagine a God who is incapable of accomplishing anything on his own, a weak, powerless, non-self-acting God. God must be capable of doing anything and everything, or rather, he must not be the true God. But what did Jesus say about himself in the Quran? Well, in Surah Maryam, verse 30, he said, قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا. صدق الله العظيم. It means, he said, I am the servant of God. He gave me the book, the Bible, and he made me a prophet. صدق الله العظيم. Well, according to this verse in chapter Maryam, verse 30 in the Holy Quran, Jesus spoke in his cradle. He said that he is a servant of God. And in the book of Matthew, chapter 15, verse 9, Jesus said, "And in vain they worship me." Well, Jesus condemned those who worshiped him. Well, why would God condemn anyone who worshiped him if he is God? You can also check for more verses spoken by Jesus himself regarding who he is in chapter 6 of the book Is Jesus God? For example, in the book of Revelation, chapter 22, verse 13 and 16, when he said, I am the Alpha and the Omega, first and the last, the beginning and the end. You can read my full explanation of these words of Jesus in chapter 6. You can also check many other verses from the perspective of Jesus himself. For example, John 10:23, when Jesus says, I and the Father are one, and my explanation to these words of Jesus, in which many Christians nowadays build their faith on these words of Jesus. In the same chapter, you can also check the full conversation between Jesus and God in the Holy Quran. Also check 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 5, which it has also some words from the mouth of Jesus about his divinity. You can also check John chapter 17, verse 3, which also have words about who Jesus was from the mouth of Jesus himself. And you can read my full explanation for each and every single verse that Jesus declared about his divinity. Thanks so much for listening. I'll meet you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.